And Roman Waschuk, former Canadian ambassador to Ukraine. Thanks for being with us today, Roman.
Glad to be with you.
This is Steve Witkoff's sixth trip to Moscow since January. It's my understanding he's never made a trip to Ukraine. What do you make of these meetings? What may come of them?
Well, we originally had the 28-point plan, which seemed to read like a translation from Russian, turned out actually did come in large part from Russia. Then there were negotiations in Geneva and in Florida to try and fix it up to meet Ukrainian and European concerns. And now we're back in Moscow. So I think the concern on the part of Ukrainians and Europeans is that Steve Witkoff has a record of coming out of meetings with Putin kind of swooning and saying, man, has he ever got it right? We're so on the track to a solution, but it's largely a Russian-dictated solution.
And so is there a middle ground here that anybody could agree to? Zelensky tweeted earlier that there are three main sticking points: the frozen assets, territories, particularly land that hasn't been won through military might, and security guarantees that just because this war ends, a new one won't begin in another month or another year. Do you think on those three main issues they could find common ground?
Well, the fact that President Zelensky has publicly identified them shows a Ukrainian willingness to address them. But on the other hand, I think the American approach, which is we don't really care what the substance is as long as we kind of just make this go away, has only emboldened the Russians. And that's why you're hearing from President Putin things like, if the Europeans don't like it, we can go to war against them, and other not terribly peaceful thoughts.
Let's talk about that notion, because that was raised by a reporter. Putin was asked about remarks that Europe was preparing for war. Apparently, Putin initially said that he did not want war, but then he went on to say that if Europe suddenly wants to start a war with us and starts it, then it would end swiftly for Europe and that Russia would have no one left to negotiate with. What do you make of those remarks from Putin?
It's an attempt to intimidate. He's obviously projecting. He's the guy who attacked Ukraine. I mean, I was here on the in Ukraine on the morning of the 24th of February. It wasn't Ukraine attacking, or it wasn't Luxembourg attacking Russia. It was Russia attacking Ukraine. So I think what he's saying is that if you are not ready to roll over like the Trump administration, then I'm willing to come after you.
And what about EU? Do you think that if Ukraine says, fine, we won't join NATO, there could be a path to EU membership for Ukraine?
I think there is a path to EU membership for Ukraine, but the whole NATO thing is far more troubling in a way for Europe than it is for Ukraine itself. What the Americans have been saying about NATO, the point in the original 28-point plan about NATO, suggests that the U.S. has kind of distanced itself from NATO. It sees itself as a mediator between Russia and NATO. And so Europeans, including current German government members, are asking themselves, do we actually still have a security guarantee for us, never mind Ukraine?
What a scary thought for many people in that region. And Vladimir Zelensky has tweeted, Roman, within the last couple of hours, saying Ukraine is now waiting for signals from the American delegation after its meeting with Russia. So they don't know what's happening. We don't know what's happening behind those closed doors. Ukraine says we're going to wait for signals, a smoke signal, something like that, to see what happens next. But nobody really knows whether concessions will be made on part of the Russians or whether it will just be dictating its terms. Have I got that right?
I think you've got that right, Carolyn. I think the Russians are feeling confident at this point. They know that they're dealing with an American team that has motivations that are largely divorced from the substance of this conflict. And so there's no real incentive for them to put a whole lot on the table. In terms of signals, apparently the American delegation is supposed to stop back in Ireland, where President Zelensky currently is. So that might be where we might divine some more about what's happened during this meeting.
Well, that will be very telling, and we'll watch for that. Roman Waschuk, former Canadian ambassador to Ukraine, thank you for your time and your insights.
You're very welcome.